So I would say that one of the best things about my life as a guitar player is that I've been consistently in situations that had no guitar part, and I've been allowed to put the guitar part there.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. That I didn't really understand that until, maybe 10 years ago. But that's what I've done. I play with people. Go, okay, you. They ask me to play with them, and then I have to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And so all of it has been like an invention on the spot based on what's going on, and having like not wanting to rely on what anybody said I was supposed to do.
Sure.
I guess they wouldn't call me for that. I don't know.
Yeah. And that sounds like that keeps you out of the trap of repeating yourself or of falling into your own. Because no matter what you do, whether you're playing changes or playing free music or whatever, you could fall into your own cliches in some regard or fall into your own habits or something like that.
I mean, we all do. I can hear myself doing things that I have done a million times, but they don't always. I have to think beyond that as much as I can. I mean, I want to give the impression that I've never repeated myself. I think we all have a default, or like I said in the book, we can only play what we know how to play, but we can also learn something on the spot. I like being in the situation where I have to learn things on the spot a lot on every gig. And, I like to work with people who are happy playing that way.
Sure.
I really don't, I've already been through the thing of, working with people that were miserable. I don't really want to do that
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
I like it to be a happy adventure.
Sure. Yeah.
And fun and open. And I don't have the expectation that anything is the music.
Sure.
I just don't. I just think like it's a perpetual frontier. That's what I call the book.
Yeah.
And I mean that. Like yesterday I played, I have a student named Michael LaRocca, who's a terrific young drummer here yesterday, who used a lot of different sound palette on his kit. I mean, he's organizing things. He's a terrific young musician. And lately we've been getting into like, how do we deal with groove more? Where some people go, well, we're never going to. That's over.
Sure.
And I think I've said this to people, like, so what? We're never gonna think of all the things that we can do that are great. That we're never gonna do them again.
Yeah. Sure. But you want to be able to incorporate all that stuff into them. You want to be able to draw from everything.
How do we make it meaningful again?
Sure.
Well, let's try. Let's see what we get. And maybe we'll fail. Maybe it'll be obvious. Maybe there's something about it that will cause some people to go, oh, I don't care about this. Oh, well, that's the risk you take.
Yeah.
Trying to be creative. It's part of it's an adventure if you do it like that. Otherwise, it's over. You're going to do what you've been doing your whole life like it's a product, and you either have, it's either a good version of it or a bad version, and that's it.
Sure. Yeah.
Adventure's over.
Yeah. But it's a high risk, high reward kind of approach to music because you have nothing to fall back on.
It's at least an artistically high rewarding thing.
You're right.
It's a tough thing to try to do it like that, because in a way you're asking everybody in the room to go with you, everybody in the room to be able to hear things differently. But I also think that's a big part of what this is. And I think it goes back to it having its sources in African music, that music in at least in a traditional sense in Africa was about marking time. History is stored in music and melodies and rhythms and songs, and certainly in every culture where music is used like that, and in African music. And so in a way, if you do something that you never heard before, and the people in the room are receptive to it, they have an experience that marks that moment in time. And they can't have that any other way. And yeah. And so we don't have to define the whole thing for everybody. People listening to it defines it as much as what we do. Like if they say, well, while that happened, I thought about something, or I want to go home and write a story, or, it made me feel really good, or, it really confused the hell out of me. They're basically saying something happened while this went on. And I think that's what we're really trading in. We're really trading in creating a sense of music that people can't just reflect on the past about.
Sure.
They have to be right in the moment with it. And if we can remind them that their experience with it as it's happening to them, as they're listening to it, is a very valuable, important part of it. That's what we're trying to get everybody to experience. It makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
And otherwise we go, well, this is our music and it comes from this and it's about this. And if you don't know this, you're a square.
Yeah, right.
You shouldn't be listening to it. We're discounting having an actively configured audience in front of us. We're saying you should know what went on in 1958. How would they,
Yeah.
So if we invite everybody to be as spontaneous about their listening as we're trying to be about our music, then it's still a real thing. And that's one of the reasons why I keep doing it, because if I have 10 people in the room and I play for 10 people a lot still, those 10 people might walk away and go, well, that was different. Whereas if there's 10,000 people, they're going to come to hear me do something they know about.
Sure. And that's really that's certainly an element of going to hear people play fully improvised music at any time, is that's a unique performance.
Yeah.
That's the only time you're going to
Exactly.
hear that performance. It's
Exactly.
not to say that every rock performance is going to be, precisely the same, but you're going to hear the same songs and you're going to hear the stuff that you know from the record. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's cool
Nothing.
too. And that can be it's interesting that you put it as this is a mark in time, because that's what
Yeah.
people remember is, oh, that show that I went to and that experience that I had in that one moment, and that can define a whole, let's say, couple years of your life, as being like, that was the year that I was into this and I went to go see this. But free music is you're going to see that in the moment right now. It's 1 minute's music in 1 minute's time.
Yeah.
And that's the experience you're going to have then.
Yeah, and the way the listener reflects on that experience is what the music is about.
Yeah.
It's not the other way. The configuration to get it there, well, that's interesting to those of us who are musicians, and it can be interesting to everybody. But we don't want that to be more important than the fact that somebody comes away with some sense of their own experience, their own inspiration, their own determination, maybe, their own critique of
Sure.
it. And if it's a unique version of that, if we're dealing with people that we invite to have that, or if we invite people that we're dealing with to have that experience, and they're cool enough to let it happen, which is not always the case.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons why we have to play to a small group of people, because there just aren't that many people there that are that with it all the time.
Sure.
We can't say, here's what you're supposed to think as you walk in the door. If we go, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
People have a different experience with things, and they like to be invited to do that. And I think, again, that's one of the problems with music now. It's almost like, especially for people younger than me who didn't have the experience of all that coming together. It's sort of the boomer generation inflicting everything on younger
Maybe,
people,
sure.
going, this is what's cool. This is what we used to do. You turn on the radio in the car and they're still playing the James Gang from 1973. I mean, I didn't want to hear that then. That stuff is awful. I heard that. I heard that when the time I went to see Led Zeppelin, that band opened for him, and I thought, well, that's awful. And then I listened to Led Zeppelin, and I was like, this is also awful. I'm surprised how much I don't like this. I went home and listened to Albert Eiler, or got more into that after that, and it's like, this is better.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hell's going on in this. It took me years to figure out anything, and it's still a mystery. It's still a mystery.
Sure. Yeah.
So, which is not to say that it's better, but it means that every time I listen to it, I can reflect on who I am as a person. I don't have to go, well, back in the 70s, I really loved this, and all of my friends and I, we were so cool in our bell bottoms. I can go, okay, it's a sort of vessel, some kind of mnemonic device in a way for me to sort of see myself. And I like things that surprise me, and some things that are incomprehensible in a way continue to surprise me.
Yeah.